Greetings and welcome back to the channel. In today's P-51 video, we're going to look at employing all of our weapons in the air-to-ground rolls, so stick around. Alright, so here we are today in a P-51 Mustang on the really good-looking channel map. And I've set up some ground targets for us to engage. And we're going to cover guns, rockets, and bombs in today's video. Now, before we start engaging targets, still got to be aware of one key thing with the P-51, and that is the radiator and oil cooler that just happened to be mounted on the bottom of the aircraft. Easy pickings for some ground fire. Now, you want to be mindful of that during your attack runs, and just be aware that if you get a hole in your radiator, it's not a matter of if your engine's going to overheat and fail. It's just a matter of time before your coolant runs out and your engine overheats and fails. Your best bet in that scenario is to head back for friendly lines or look for a place to set down and soon, because your engine is not going to survive for terribly long when all the coolant runs out. So first things first with guns, we need to set our gun sight from air-to-air mode down to air-to-ground mode. And that is done with this rotary switch on the K-14 gun sight control on the left-hand side of the cockpit. So there we go. And we end up with a reticle that looks like this. It's a fixed ring reticle with the cross in the dead center. That is your bore sight cross, and that's the center of the gun sight. And this is probably the easiest one out of the three sets of weapons in order to use. Now, on the way into the target area, we want to make sure that our guns and camera switch is set to the up position. And as before in the air-to-air gunnery, we want to make sure that we have no side slip and that we are in coordinated flight. You don't want any of your rounds to skew off to one side or the other as you're doing your run. Alright, so here we are rolling in. We've got some trucks set up here on this runway. And give it a squeeze and come off target. Yep, got one. Nice. Alright. And as I said before, this is one of the easiest weapons to use in the Mustang for air-to-ground. And it's just that easy. Line up on your target, put them on the cross in the center of the gun sight. Make sure you're in coordinated flight, and then just give it a good squeeze on the trigger. Alright, now let's move on to rockets. Alright, now as you can see here, I am carrying 3 sets of rockets, 3 on each wing. You have the option in your loadouts to mount 3 pairs of rockets like this, a max load of 10 rockets, 5 per wing, or 3 rockets per wing plus a pair of bombs on each wing. That's a fairly heavy loadout. It's not one that I fly with very often, but that is an option to you. These rockets are 5 inches in diameter. They're fairly heavy, and the rocket motor doesn't burn for terribly long. So what that translates to is as soon as you fire them and the rocket burns out, they have a ballistic drop. They start to arc down real fast. So they're not very long-range rockets. Alright, now as before with the guns, we want to set our gun sight to the fixed reticle mode. Down here on our rocket panel, just behind the stick, we have this 5-way switch right here next to our magnetos. What we want to do is set that to the up position with a left click. And then underneath that, we have this rotary dial that turns the rockets on, sets them to single fire or ripple fire. I'm going to set them to single fire. And then you also have a switch off to the other side for your fusing. So set to instantaneous. They will detonate as soon as they hit something. Delay fuse, they will have a short time delay before detonating. Alright, so back on the reticle, and like I mentioned before, the rockets themselves are fairly heavy, and they will drop to the ground fairly quickly after the rocket burns out. So to account for that, right here in the gun sight, you got these two little bars on the bottom half of the circle. A good tactic that I have found is to bracket your target within these equal sign bars, and once your target fills that gap, you're at a good range to fire the rockets. Alright, so let's look at how this is employed. Alright, I'll come off active pause. And I got my targets just in front of me again. And just like before, you want to stay in coordinated flight, because these rockets will fly off to one side or the other if you don't. Line up on the fuel truck there. And right about there. I got a little too low towards the end there. It's an easy way to hit the ground. As soon as you fire them, you wanna pull up and away from the ground. All right, I'll do one more attack run. And rockets. Got another one. Alright, the last thing I want to cover with rockets is ripple fire. Alright, so let's check this out and how to set that up. So if we come down here to the armament panel, again we click up to the rockets mode. We set the knob for auto. Set your fusing delay to either delay or instantaneous, your choice. And right here, this knob, if we want to set a specific quantity, we can. This is the physical rocket number on the wing. So with it set to 1, it will start with rocket number 1 and continue and fire them until they are all gone. Alright, so let's look at ripple fire. Alright, come on back to pause. Coordinated flight. Line up on a target. And ripple. There they go. Alright. Woo. Alright. Scratch one truck. Alright, so that's rockets. Let's go ahead and move on to bombs. Alright, so in the P-51, you're able to carry up to 2 bombs, one on each wing, and they can either be 250 pounds each or 500 pounds each. And like I said, this is where they would mount on your aircraft. Now, before we go down to our armament panel, I'll just move the stick out of the way for you guys. Now, that 5-way switch, as I noted before, you move it up for rockets, but now you have 2 positions down on the bottom of this for your bombs. Down and to the right is the train position. Down and to the left is the bomb position. Now, you may be asking yourself what the difference is if you're not familiar with these settings. So easy way to think of this is the train position is meant as a single release, so you get 1 bomb per release of the weapons release button. The bomb mode is a pairs release. So with that set to the bomb mode, whenever you hit the weapons release button, both bombs will come off of the wing. Alright, just to the right of the selector switch, you have the bomb arming switches. If you set these down, you will arm that particular bomb, and you want to set both of them to armed. That will arm the fuse, so whenever it hits the ground, it'll set the fuse, and then the bomb will detonate depending on either if you have the instantaneous fuse or time delay fuse set. I'm going to talk through these steps. So you got two options when it comes to bombs. You can either do a shallow angle glide bomb or a dive bomb. Dive bombing is a bit more accurate, however it is a lot harder to pull off. Actually, both methods are hard to pull off. This is probably the hardest weapon to use in the Warbirds, is the bombs, because you don't have a bombing site per se, and to be accurate, you have to drop the bombs at a specific height, at a specific airspeed, and at a specific angle in order to get consistent hits with your bombs. It's very difficult, and it just takes a lot of practice. I'm not great at it personally. It's something I do try from time to time, but it's not something I typically it's not something I practice regularly. But in any event, I can definitely show you guys the process. Alright, I'm just rolling off to the left so I can get a good idea of where my targets are, and I can just see them just below my canopy rail there, and I'll mark it with the arrow on screen. And the same set of trucks that I had before. And I'll go on active pause one more time. So for the dive, you want to pull the throttle back to idle and roll in on the target and steady up, and make sure, again, you center up that ball to make sure you're in coordinated flight. Also, when you release your bombs, you want to make sure to pitch back on the stick, because if you're pitched forward at all, as soon as your bombs release, you could potentially fly into your bombs and set them off and shoot yourself down in the process. I've done it once before. It's definitely not fun when that happens. It's kind of embarrassing too. But the other thing is, you don't want to dive down too low, because you still have to pull out of the dive at the bottom without hitting the ground and without getting caught in the blast from the bomb. Alright, so let's look at this. Alright, steady up on the dive. Coordinated flight. And pitch up, bombs away. Hey, I got one. Oh boy. Not exactly where I was aiming, but it seems like I got two trucks in that explosion. So let's go overfly and check out the damage. There's the impact craters. Well, looks like I damaged one, but I didn't outright destroy it. Like I said, bombs is it's a very difficult weapon to use in any of the Warbirds, let alone the P-51. So, just takes practice on that one. Alright, last thing I want to cover with bombs is actually here in the rearm menu. Also, you can do this in the mission editor. So late last year, Eagle Dynamics added time delay fusing, or fusing options rather, to all the bombs, and you can edit that using this little orange triangle when you have the bombs. So that if you click the little orange triangle in the top left corner there, you can actually select the type of fuse that you want on your bombs, as well as the function delay. The function delay is how long after it impacts will it detonate, And then the arming vanes revolutions, there's a little spinner on the nose of the bomb, and once it's released, that spinner is set free, or once it's released from your wing, rather. So once it drops off the wing, that little spinner starts spinning, and that's how many revolutions it takes that spinner before your bomb is fully armed and will detonate whenever it's fused, in accordance with the function delay there. But that's how long it'll take once it falls free of your wing in order to actually arm in order to detonate. But this is did want to show you guys this because this is something that's often overlooked and is a really cool feature that that they added last year. Alright everybody, well I hope this helps you guys out with the air-to-ground employment of the P-51 Mustang. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.